remember my first visit to Chatham. Ron took me down the street, and I just fell in love with it. And said, someday I want to live on the street.
13 months after buying their mortgage insurance, Charmaine's husband Ron gets diagnosed with cancer, an inoperable tumor behind his eyes. He had to stop working.
It was just a shock, a big shock.
So, time to submit a claim for that mortgage insurance.
This is my room. Just some pictures of my family.
And Leanne's husband, Louis.
Oh, this is great. Where was
that was just on the beach, downtown Burlington.
14 months after buying his mortgage insurance, he dies from a sudden heart attack.
Did you think that could happen? He was so young.
No, and he was so fit, right? And he was so adamant about his health. Like, truly, it didn't occur to me. No.
Must have been quite a relief to hear, oh, thank goodness we have the insurance.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know. It was just like, oh, my husband took care of me right to the end, you know? That's how I felt.
So imagine her shock when she opened her mail a few weeks later.
And there was a letter in there saying my claim had been denied. So, ran to the bathroom, thought I was going to throw up, and just sort of regrouped and tried to figure out what was happening. It was just like my heart was just like, what? One tragedy, now this, like, it's too much for me to take.
I think most people assume once you filled out this health questionnaire, if they accept your application and they start taking your premiums, that they have qualified.
Yes, I know they do, and they're wrong. All they've qualified to do is to pay premiums. After they die, there's a test to see if they actually have insurance.
If they're going to be, digging into the claim after the fact, they should just be right up front and do it right at the beginning. That way, everybody knows what's going on.
I don't think people should have to worry about this. In the midst of losing, like, their soulmate, have to worry about this as well. Like, I really think that is something that needs to be taken care of beforehand.
This is the actual form that he filled out.
So why were Louis's premiums accepted, but his claim denied?
Within the past 24 months, have you consulted a doctor, received treatment, counseling?
He'd been on a heart drug for 10 years. Sure enough, we take a look at the form, and there it is. It asks about the past 24 months, medication, and heart disease. But Louis checked the no box.
I don't know what my husband was thinking, but in my mind, like, when I read it, first thing you see is within the past 24 months. And none of that had happened to him in the last 24 months.
If a licensed broker had sold that insurance, it's likely the form would have been thoroughly explained.
So nobody ever asked your husband, how's your health? Have you ever had a serious ailment? None of that discussion?
No, not to my knowledge. There was no talk of that.
So how easy is it to misunderstand the application form for mortgage insurance? That's exactly what we're testing back on the dance floor.
So if Jim asks you a question and it applies to you, if the answer is yes for you, you must leave the dance floor. You got that?
They all think they've qualified for mortgage insurance since they didn't tick yes to any of the health issues on our form.
One of the questions on the form was, have you had digestive or intestinal disorders?
But what did that long question really cover? Items that might disqualify you on the dance floor or at the bank.
How many of you have seen a doctor because of diarrhea or vomiting? Maybe you had Montezuma's Revenge on a trip, or maybe you had the flu so bad you had to see a doctor. If you did, please leave the floor. We lost one.
Remember, the object is to keep dancing, keep qualified for mortgage insurance as long as possible.
If you lost your partner, please find a healthier partner. We're going to start the music up again. Here's a foxtrot. We'll find out who leaves the floor next.
Both Leanne and Charmaine's husbands bought mortgage insurance at TD. It's underwritten by Canada Life, one of the biggest insurance companies going. Last year, pushing insurance products made TD more than $1 billion. We have lots of questions for TD, but they won't talk to us. Instead, they send this email telling us mortgage insurance is a product that is easy to apply for and understand.
Bye-bye.
Since TD won't talk, we tracked down a guy who worked there for 6 years, Andrew Willock.
Hi, Andrew and Erica.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
These days he runs a movie theater, but as a financial advisor, he was told to push the mortgage insurance, and he did, to more than a third of his clients.
It was always important to meet your sales goal as a salesperson at the bank because that determined your bonus and performance appraisals, things like that.
And how'd TD get customers to buy in? Andrew says one trainer actually suggested he mention heart attacks, the high rate of cancer.
If people are concerned that they could fall ill with cancer or some other type of disease, then it would make it easier to sell insurance.
He says this sales tactic was recommended too.
Someone suggested that if someone refused to take the insurance, that when they're signing the waiver, they have to initial off on a waiver to waive the insurance coverage to say, so by initialing this, you and your family will not be protected in case something happens to you.
And why was that?
Well, it was a last-ditch effort to get them to sign up for the insurance.
But one false move on that application form can put you on the sidelines.
Have you ever been tested for high blood pressure? The test for high blood pressure is the test where they put the cuff on your arm and they pump it up and they read your blood pressure.
Well, who hasn't had that?
Everybody.
Well, then who would qualify if you read this
most
form
people
properly?
say no. You're catching on. You're catching on.
Slowly but surely, our dance floor empties out.
Have you ever been tested for cancer? In the last 5 years, if you had a mammogram, or a pap smear, or men, if you had a PSA test for your prostate, please leave the floor.
It's not having those tests that can disqualify you, but you have to say you've had them. Misunderstand and answer incorrectly? Insurance companies consider that fraud.
Fraud, yeah. Now, fraud to you means you deliberately did something. Fraud in insurance applications can mean you did something so sloppily that it's fraudulent to expect somebody else to rely on it.
So if I misread some questions and don't think I've had a cancer test because I had a mammogram, that would count as
Yes.
fraud?
Yeah.
So are you saying they go through your application form, then they check your medical records, and they look for little gems they can find that
Yes.
might conflict with what you said on your form?
Of course. It's part of the claims process.
That's what happened with Charmaine's husband, Ron. Just like Leanne's case, TD denies the mortgage
You
claim.
thought you were covered.
Oh, exactly. I went, are you kidding me? And for the reasons that they stated, which have nothing to do with cancer, it just seemed rather odd to me, you know.
Based on this evaluation, you would not have been considered insurable for critical illness.
It was upsetting for Ron,
We'll
too.
be terminating your critical illness coverage and refunding premiums paid. And, pardon my language, but that was a bunch of horse manure.
Ron Beausejour is still fighting his cancer and fighting the insurance company's decision. TD says Ron didn't tell them about high blood pressure and elevated cholesterol, but they found it mentioned in his medical file.
So were you not told by your doctor?
I was never told by my doctor that I had anything wrong with me. I was in good health.
So they're saying that you filled this out misleadingly.
Misleadingly, yes. And as far as my knowledge is, I filled that out properly.
We take a look at Ron's application form, and there it is, high blood pressure and elevated cholesterol. And sure enough, he checked off the no box. But Ron says that's because he had no idea what his doctor wrote down. So he told what he thought was the truth.
If they want to sell this kind of insurance, they should have a nurse or someone there right there saying, okay, let me check your blood pressure. Let me check your cholesterol. And then within hours, we'll let you know if you qualify for this insurance.
And Ron's not sick from blood pressure or cholesterol. He's fighting cancer.
Here.
He's too sick to work, and Charmaine's paycheck isn't enough. They've maxed out their credit cards, borrowed money from friends and family, trying to hold on to their house.
I'm thinking too, how am I going to make next week's mortgage payment? I'm not working, and like, who do I ask to borrow money from? Just so I don't lose my house. Like I said, if I knew now, I don't want to see it, Charmaine out on the street.
We've got a widow who might lose her house. We've got a man fighting cancer who might lose his house. What's going on?
Well, what's going on is the system is working exactly as it was intended to. They are asking very difficult questions that a consumer could not possibly figure out by themselves. The form is a form designed to be completed with the help of an agent, but they are not providing trained agents to administer the questions.
We asked TD and Canada Life how many claims they deny every year. Turns out it's an industry secret they won't divulge. But TD does tell us it's not up to bank employees to tell clients if they really qualify for coverage, saying if customers have questions about personal health issues or pre-existing medical conditions, we encourage them to speak to their doctor. And this former bank employee says he didn't get much training on the product except on how to sell it.
The way they trained us or talked about insurance was very simple. It was take the insurance. If something happens to you, it will be paid out. It's that simple.
They should know the extent of the product that they're selling. And if they don't, they should make it their business to know it.
In the U.S., some states have banned post-claim underwriting, but here it's allowed, and only one province has done anything to protect consumers, Alberta. They made it mandatory for anyone selling insurance to be licensed. The banks fought it all the way to Supreme Court.
TD Bank says that people who fill these forms out have to take responsibility for the accuracy of the information. So in other words, it's your fault that you're being denied.
Yeah, well, I'm glad they think so, but because I said everything I put on that application, as far as I knew, that was it. I was never told by any doctor that I was sick of any sort.
To the best of your knowledge.
Best of my knowledge, I was A-OK.
So why does Canada Life design policies for banks the way they do? Just like TD, they won't talk to us. So we send them this questionnaire. In the past 4 weeks, have you agreed to an interview with CBC Marketplace regarding the perceived difficulty faced by consumers when reading your policies? Questions on forms are considered by many consumers to be unclear, dense, and easy to misinterpret. How many policies you sell, how much in premiums you collect, and or how many claims you deny every year? Canada Life hasn't returned our form. Before being a stay-at-home mom, Leanne Santos worked in interior design.
No, I'm not finding what I'm looking for here.
A profession she's had to go back to since Lewis died.
Do you ever think about your husband and if he knew what you were going through now?
I wonder all the time, is he looking down? And, I know what he'd say, like, stand up for yourself, and well, that. But he would just say, stand up for yourself, right? You look after the girls, and everything else will come.
When TD and Canada Life denied Ron's claim, they refunded his premiums and may have thought they were comforting him with another piece of news.
They told me, he said, don't worry, Ron, we're canceling this claim, but you still have life insurance. In other words, they're saying, if you want your house paid off, maybe you better give in to this disease.
What was that like to hear that?
It hurt. It really hurt. I'm not a crier, but I cry every night now. I don't know what tomorrow brings.
One thing it brings is a lawsuit. He's suing Canada Life and TD Bank to try to keep his house. And so's Leanne.
I guess in the end, I just hope that honesty prevails. Like, my husband was an honest person. He just tried to do the right thing, and I just really hope that they do the right thing, I guess.
And our test on the dance floor?
We started this off with a dance floor full of people who were confident they qualified.
Yes, I'm sure they did.
Yep, just 6 people who might really qualify for coverage. Proof that insurance isn't always a sure thing. Now, here's the bottom line before you sign.
I'd like to see it sold by people who knew what they're doing, so the insurance was actually valid.